Sådär ja, välkomna till det här webbinariet med mig Max Söderpalm och med Bruce King som jag strax ska introducera. Temat idag heter Du får svar och det kan du vara helt säker på att du kommer få. Jag heter Max Söderpalm för dig som inte har hört mig förut. Jag är författare, har skrivit 10 böcker om försäljning och hur man blir framgångsrik och hur man kan tänka sig till framgång. Och vad är det jag skriver om för någonting då? Jo, jag skriver om saker som jag har varit med, som jag har sett ute på företag, som jag har drivit själv eller som jag har coachat på. Och sedan berättar jag helt enkelt om det. Och det har gått ganska bra kan man tycka. Som företagare har jag hållit på i sisådär 25 år. Byggt 2 Dagens Industrigaseller och flera andra snabbväxande företag. Så att lite grann har jag nog koll på vad jag pratar om. Och det är jag jätteglad för. Och det är inte bara jag idag, utan att jag har med mig en av mina bästa vänner. Min mentor och den person som jag håller som världens bästa säljtränare faktiskt. Mr. Bruce King, are you there?
Yes, Max, I'm here. Good morning, everybody. Hello, Sweden.
Yes, in Sweden we have winter. A lot of people are skiing and we are freezing. But we are warm when we hear you from England. Great. Bruce är författare. Han har skrivit den boken som lärde mig att bli stjärnsäljare en gång i tiden som heter Psycho Selling. Han har också skrivit Sälj så det ryker, referenser och nu senast Århundradets kamp. Och också böcker om Tryggve Superbjörn som hjälper barnen att lära sig de här svåra sakerna som vi som föräldrar inte klarar att lära ut. Det här att man inte ska retas, att man inte ska mobbas och att man faktiskt får lov att bli det man vill här i världen. Bruce jobbar som säljcoach, internationell föreläsare. Han har ju flera internationella bestsellers innanför västen och har drivit företag i hela sitt liv. Och vad är det vi ska göra idag? Jo, idag ska du få svar på alla dina frågor av både Bruce och av mig. Så att du kan gå härifrån och ha massa utropstecken istället för frågetecken. Sen kommer du också få reda på med ganska tydligt varför just du borde gå på Masters of Sales i april. Och sedan förutom det, för vi har ju förberett med frågor som folk har skickat in till oss och det är jättekul för det är kanonbra frågor. Men du kan alltså skriva in dina egna frågor under questions på din datapanel. Alltså på webbinarpanelen. Där skriver du in egna frågor och i mån av tid så tar vi och river av dem i realtid. Så ska vi göra. Och alltihopa det här är ju i ett enda syfte. Att du ska få en knuff nu precis innan våren kommer och öka försäljningen i februari och mars. Och visst vore väl det kul, eller hur? So let's start with the questions. And Bruce, and I am very interested. Why did you start to work in sales?
That's a very good question. Well, before I was in sales, let's go back a bit. I wanted to be a doctor. The problem was I failed all my exams. So I decided that I'd go into alternative medicine. And I studied nutrition and I became a qualified acupuncturist. And that's when I learned or started to learn all my stuff about mind training and mind control, and which, as you know, I've continued to study ever since. The problem was that in those days, alternative medicine was so alternative that I'd have probably found it easier to make a living being a witch doctor. So after about 4 years, I quit because I'd had 2 children and quite frankly, there wasn't enough money coming in. So what do you do when you've got no qualifications and you want to try and get a job. The only thing that was available was a commission only, no salary, commission only position in sales. And so that's what I did. I knew nothing about selling whatsoever, or thought I didn't, but actually I intuitively seemed to know a lot. I read every book I could find on sales. I bought cassette tapes. That's what we had, tapes in those days. I went on loads of sales training seminars, paid for them at my own expense. And within a year, I was actually the top salesperson in a company with over 2,500 salespeople. I went on to train other sales teams for other companies. Then I set up my own company, and I was phenomenally successful in sales.
But Bruce, do you remember anything from the first days when you started your sales work? Because I know we have a lot of brand new salespeople on board this webinar. Do you remember that feeling?
I remember the very first day. I had been on a 4-day training course at the company's head offices. It was a financial services company. I'd had 4 days of product training, and then I was sent back to the local branch. And I went to see the sales manager at the office, and I said, "So what do I do?" Because I've had no sales training. He gave me a copy of Yellow Pages. He said, "You stand over there, there's no chair, you stand over there by that telephone and you phone people and you make appointments. And then you go and see them and you sell to them." And I said, "But what do I say?" He said, "Figure it out for yourself." Well, I almost quit on the spot. The only thing that stopped me, well, there was 2 things that stopped me. One, there was quite a number of people in that office who were earning 6-figure sums, and that was over 20 years ago. Sorry about that.
Yes.
That was over 20 odd years ago. And the other thing that's, they weren't terribly smart. So I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. And apart from that, where else was I going to go?
So, let's move on a little. How come you, as a salesperson and a sales trainer, why did you decide to start to write about sales and become an author?
Well, that's a very interesting story. You see, what happened was I set up my own financial services company. I was employing 30, 35 salespeople, all of whom I'd trained to be superb, and we had a fantastic business. It was getting to be worth millions. Unfortunately, I made a very foolish mistake, and to cut a long story short, I lost the business. And I didn't know what to do. I had a huge mortgage. I had 3 children at private school. I had huge expenses, and I suppose what we should have done was, sold the house, moved to something smaller, taken the kids out of private school. But I don't believe in going backwards. My wife was hysterical. Stephanie was hysterical. She said, "What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" I said, "Just give me 48 hours to think about it." And I thought about it. And I came down for breakfast 2 days later, and I said, "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to write a book based on all of my experiences with how to use the brain to become extremely successful, plus all the sales techniques that I've learned over the years and I've taught other people. And I'm going to put that together in a book. I'm going to call it Psycho Selling, and it's going to become an international bestseller, and I am going to become a famous conference speaker." And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said, "You've never written anything more than a half-a-page article and a couple of training manuals. How are you going to become an international bestseller?" I said, "Leave it to me." And I just put the mind control techniques into practice. that I teach other people, and those of you who've been to some of my master classes before will know what I'm talking about. Within 2 weeks, I had a meeting at the BBC, at BBC Books, which was one of the biggest publishers in England. They paid me a lot of money to write the book. It became an international bestseller within the space of about 6 to 8 months. It was published in 23 countries, and I was getting invites from companies all over the world to go and speak at conferences. So that's how it happened.
Yes, and now you're working on it. Great. So let's start now with some questions from the audience here. And a lot of people I know in Sweden have difficulties to start their days in a positive way. So let's speak about the sales start. What's your best tip, Bruce, to win the sales starts every day?
Max, everybody, if you have really exciting goals, I call them BHAGs, BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. Goals that really excite you, goals that get you up in the morning and you can't wait to get going. You'll become unstoppable. It all comes down to the mind again, and how you program your mind for phenomenal success. Small goals or just hitting your sales targets, they're not exciting enough. You want something really exciting, like double your sales. If you knew for sure, and if you program your mind to know that you're going to achieve that, that's exciting. That gets you up in the morning. That gets you going. That gets you doing all the things that you would want to do, that you need to do to achieve those goals faster than maybe you ever thought possible.
Yes, and yes,
that you are
keep on.
determined to achieve, committed to achieve, and go get them.
I will add something in Swedish here, Bruce. När det kommer till säljstarten så är mitt eget tips att du hittar din positiva checklista. De flesta människor tycker det är jobbigt att gå upp på morgonen. De flesta människor tycker att det är besvärligt att skrapa bilen eller att lämna barnen och alla de här sakerna som man ska göra, och sen kommer man till jobbet och är grinig. Om du har det här målet som Bruce pratar om och sedan också ser till så att dagen börjar så som du vill att den ska göra. Och nyckeln här är ofta tid. Och jag tycker ju att bästa sättet att vinna säljstarten, det är att du tittar in i zonen. I zonen är ju den platsen som jag har tagit fram där man kan, istället för TV4-nyheterna och lite reklamfilm, så kan du istället se saker som gör dig positiv på morgonen. Så att lägg din plan, använd i zonen om du kan, och sen så ser du till att undvika massa negativa saker. Så kommer det här bli kanonbra. Bruce, I just told them not to have all those negative influences in the morning. Have you something to say about that?
Well, let's go back, shall we, to the night before when you go to bed. Because it's interesting that most people tend to focus on what went wrong at the end of the day, not what went right. And that's no way to go to bed, because you're putting your mind into a totally non-positive state, and it's going to work away all by itself and focus on more non-positive or negative things. One of the most powerful things you can do is keep a journal and spend 15 to 20 minutes writing in it every night, and writing down all the great things that happened, all the great things that happened every day. And when you do that, you put all of that stuff into your mind, and it works away in your mind during the night. And when you wake up in the morning with those BHAGs, those big, hairy, audacious goals, and you're fired up and ready to go. You cannot be negative. It's not possible. You train your brain to win the game.
Great. So let's go to the next question. Bros, both you and me have worked a lot in telephone sales. How do you treat unpleasant people when you call them?
Well, that depends how unpleasant they are. My belief is that if you approach people in the correct manner, then, and you approach them very professionally, then most people won't be nasty to you. They won't be rude to you. So if you are very professional, if you are very pleasant, and somebody is extremely rude, I won't speak to them. But it comes down to setting everything up properly in the first place, knowing precisely what you are going to say. I mean, let me give you a little sales tip here. You know, some people say some terrible things when they cold call people, like, how are you today? You know, that's so insincere. You don't really care how they are, and they know you don't care. So that's a terrible way to start a conversation. Some people say, I'm sorry to bother you, but why would you want to start people thinking about being bothered and about you being sorry and apologizing? And some people actually, and I get this a lot because I like to take cold calls, some people say, hello, is that Bruce? And I say, yes. Bruce, this is John. This is not a sales call. And they're lying. Why would you want people to know that you're lying from the moment you open your mouth? Here's an interesting way to start a conversation on a cold call. Write this down, folks. They answer the phone. You say, good morning, this is Bruce King, and this is a sales call. Would you like to hang up now? And what happens is there's either a deadly silence, because nobody's ever said that to them before, or they giggle, or they hang up. And if they hang up, and 1 in 10 will, those people would have hung up on you anyway, so you just got rid of them quickly. So when they giggle or there's a silence, you then say, okay, give me 20 seconds to tell you why I am calling, and then you can decide whether or not you want to continue with the conversation. Is that okay? And you will get a conversation. But you just have to be very well structured and very well prepared for what you are going to say when you get that permission to continue.
Great answer. Yeah, and I know that's a great tip, because if you do that, yes, you get a lot of more calls. I will add something in Swedish. Hur man bemöter negativa människor. Jag tror det viktigaste är att inte ta det personligt. De är inte negativa för att just du ringer. Du behöver inte ta åt dig det själv. De är negativa för att de har bråttom för att hämta barna, eller för att räntan har gått upp eller ner, eller för att någon på jobbet har sagt att de har ful bil, eller ja, något sånt där. De är inte negativa mot dig speciellt, och då behöver inte du ta åt dig av det, för låter du deras negativitet stå i vägen för ditt stora härliga mål, då är det ditt problem. Så lite granna upp med hakan och tuffa till sig lite granna, så att de negativa människorna, jag menar, ni vet Patrik, ni vet gnällhörnan, att det inte är de som bestämmer. Bra! Bros, how do you shorten the sales process and get the order now? Not later on, we want the order now. What's your best tip on that?
Well, there's about 50 different questions in there, Max, and they're all applying to every single stage of the sales process. So that's a very difficult one to give you a total overall answer to. But let me again give you one tip. depending upon how big the sale is, I will spend a lot of time preparing. If it's going to be worth tens of thousands of pounds to me, I'll script out my presentation, I'll practice it, I'll rehearse it, I'll role play it with other people in my team, because I want to make absolutely 100% certain I've covered every question I think that's going to come up, so that I'm totally and utterly competent. In spite of all of that preparation, when I go to the meeting, I will often start with a close. So I will say, "Hello, John. Have you invited me in here today to place an order with me?" They'll look at me. One time in about 100, they'll say yes, and we'll just get on with it. But very often what happens is they say, "Whoa, hold on a minute, Bruce. I do have a couple of questions." So I've already, in the space of 2 or 3 minutes, I have got my whole presentation down to, if I can answer a couple of questions, I've got the business.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I've saved myself all of that presentation work. I rehearsed, and it was worth it because I'll use that some other occasion. But that cuts it down from going through the entire thing down to just answering a couple of questions.
Great. And
the other thing to do, let me just continue if I may, please, Mac.
Yes.
I'm hired by some very big companies, and one of the things that I do is I sometimes go out with salespeople on their sales calls. And one of the things that I've noticed, and take note of this, folks, one of the things I've noticed is that when people ask closing questions, well, let's start with, go back a step. Very often people don't ask for the business, or don't ask to, what do we have to do right now to move on to the next stage in the sales process. If they are closing the sale, they don't close it with positive vibes. They close it and they seem unsure. They come across as a little bit unsure if they should be closing it. They seem a little nervous, and those thoughts are transferred to the prospect, and they get nervous and they get unsure. You have to be totally positive and ask in a very positive manner, in an assumptive matter. You expect to get the business.
Of course.
I hope that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. I will speak a little in Swedish about the shorten of the sales process as well. Väldigt många förlänger sina väntetider bara genom att man föreslår att man ska höras om en vecka, eller om 2 veckor, eller om en månad. Och det gör att du tappar affären. Bästa sättet för dig att snabbt få folk att köpa direkt, det är till att börja med att om det behövs någon betänketid eller kolla med någon chef eller med någon man eller med någon fru eller något i den stilen, då gör du så. Då säger du jättebra, då hörs vi i eftermiddag. Eller då hörs vi imorgon. Istället för att vi hörs om 2 veckor. Sedan så bokar du en exakt dag, en exakt tid när återkontakten ska vara. Och sedan håller jag med Bruce helt och hållet om det här med att inte våga closa som många gör. Det var väldigt bra att han säger att på ett positivt sätt ska man be dem att köpa. Inte för att man är livrädd för om de ska köpa. Utan helt enkelt bara fråga, okej kunden, hur gör vi nu för att få ta nästa steg? Ska vi köra igång eller? Att man vågar ta den diskussionen med en gång. Jättebra. Let's move on. Bruce, what should you do outside your job to become a star seller?
What do you mean by outside your job?
Yes, you work from 8 to 5 or something, and you speak with customers, and you do your administration, and you do all the job stuff. But outside the job, if you want more, how should you spend your free time to
Well,
get closer to your goal?
if you're, let's say, 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock at the evening is actually going to enable you to achieve these big, hairy, audacious goals, then I would suggest that you spend the rest of the time with your family and your friends and enjoying yourself. Those of you who are familiar with my magic hour, there's an hour a day which will totally and utterly transform your life. And enabled you to achieve your goals faster than you ever imagined, just 1 hour a day. And I'll be telling you about that on the Think and Grow Sales program. Um, if you're not, if you're not meeting your goals between 8 and 5, then I suggest that you read as much as you possibly can in your spare time and learn more sales strategies, learn more about positive thinking, learn more about everything that you need to do in order to achieve those goals.
Great. I will just add one thing. You can do a lot of things with social media, and I think social media at work is not good. Use it in the evening before you go to sleep to maybe find some new prospect on LinkedIn or Facebook. But also spend time, as Bruce said, reading, making plans, think about your goal, and have fun. I think if you do that instead of being bored, in Sweden we have a television show, Farmer Seeks Wife. I don't know if you got that in England, Bruce. They have a couple of farmers and they will have a competition to get a wife. If you haven't seen it, don't look at it because
Oh my,
yeah, use that tie. It's big. It's really big in Sweden. So I think the the question here is relevant. But never mind that. Spend time reaching your goals, and I don't really care if it's on my actual work time or if it's I'm thinking in the morning or in the evening or doing some stuff. Your goal is the most important thing. Just get there. So, 3 questions about network sales. In network sales, how do you get the people interested without throwing them the whole information bucket at one time? Because that's always scare them. What do you say about that?
yeah, I've been on the receiving end many times over the years um, from networking organizations. And for some reason, yes, they do think they've got to tell you everything before you've even expressed an interest. This is sales. You know, networking organizations say networking, network marketing, referral marketing is not selling. That's rubbish. It is selling, but it's selling my way and your way, not just dumping a load of information on them. It starts, you've got to establish the need. And you know, there's two basic fundamentals that will attract people, two emotions. It's either fear or it's greed. And what we're looking to do whenever we're selling is to find problems that we can solve for people and opportunities we can help them to exploit, and then tell them how we can help them do that. So you don't start off with, I've just got involved in this amazing new business and you can make millions and this is our fantastic. You start off with a couple of simple questions. Tell me, how's things? Could you be interested in making some additional money in your spare time? Do you have financial problems at home? You know, you haven't changed your car for years. Would the prospect of being able to buy a new car get you a little bit excited about looking at something that might help you achieve that? Establish the need first and then solve the need, whether it's solving a problem or exploiting an opportunity. Don't just dump on people. They're not interested until they become interested.
And Ambrose, this is not only for network sales. This is from all sales. A lot,
Yeah,
yeah, all people in ordinary sales do the same thing, and they get the same result. So,
selling is not.
yeah,
Sorry,
yes,
I was going to say selling is not speaking.
selling,
Selling is not talking.
selling,
God gave you,
asking.
yeah, God gave you 2 ears, 1 nose, and 1 mouth, and you use them in those proportions.
Yes, that's great. I will add one thing because I know we have a lot of networkers from the health business in the webinar. One easy question you can start with: Hur mår du? How do you feel? And then they ask, yes, I'm fine. No, how are you really doing? How do you really feeling? And then you start to ask them about how they actually are and how they feel, and are they sick or are they healthy? And then you can start a very interested conversation. So ask questions. Okay, another network marketing question, Bruce. In network sales, how do I support and inspire my team?
It's about leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
It's about leadership. You lead by example. If you are not selling your product, don't expect your team to. They need to see you doing it. If you are not recruiting more people into your team, then they won't do it. They need to see you recruiting. You need to lead by example. You need to teach on an ongoing basis. A leader is a coach. You need to coach your people on an ongoing basis, and that will inspire them.
But
Or they'll go.
Bros, this is the same thing in ordinary sales, because both you and me have worked all our life as sales coaches. And if a sales director or a sales coach not inspire their sales team, there will be no sales. Doesn't matter if it's network or not.
Yep, absolutely.
So lead as an example. And I have written a whole book about this. And I know one thing is keep your team safe. Let them know where to get the information, how to do things, and always inspire them. If you are sad, or if you are in a bad mode, you can't be that. You have to act as everything is good, because if you act as everything is good, it will be good.
Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Great. Here's an attitude question, Bruce. Yeah, it's both for networks selling and ordinary selling. Your best 3 advice to keep your spirit, attitude, and your sales tempo high.
Have the big goal and stay totally focused on it.
Yes, even if
so
people say no to you.
Sorry.
Even if people say no to you.
I don't care about other people. If they're not in my team, I don't care about them. I know what I want to achieve, and nothing is going to stop me. Nothing.
Great. Jag håller med Bruce här. Ja, målet är det viktigaste. Har du ett mål, så åk på det. Då spelar det väl för 17 ingen roll vad de andra säger eller vad de andra gör. För du vet ju vart du ska. Eller hur? Och i min bok Passiv inkomst beskriver jag det här som att man tillsammans med sitt team går över en bro från det vanliga livet till ett liv där man har mera frihet, har mera pengar och förhoppningsvis har lite mera kul. Så du måste på något sätt ta bort dig själv från gnällhörnan. Ta bort dig själv från alla de där negativa sakerna. För jag menar, det kommer komma en jordbävning till. Det kommer komma en fartygskatastrof, en flyktingkatastrof. Det kommer komma ett kommunförbund till som lurar sina medlemmar. Allt det där kommer hela tiden. Men du behöver inte bry dig om det. För det du kan göra är att bry dig om ditt mål. Så enkelt är det. Okay, I know you like this more than I do. If I am cold calling, should I call them direct or should I email them first?
Well, I have a rule about email, and I know it's being adopted by an awful lot of people. If they're senior people in an organization, then there's a very good chance that they are not checking their own emails. Their PAs are doing it, and they'll dump pretty much everything because all they want to pass through to their boss is a few important emails. If I open up my emails in the morning myself, and I get my PA to do most of it most days, there's something like 300-400 emails in there, and 95% of them are rubbish. I don't want to look at it. If I want to speak to somebody, I will pick up the phone and I will speak to them.
Yes.
Emails are a terrible way to introduce yourself. Voicemail, on the other hand, is a great way to introduce yourself, done properly. And of course, I teach people and you teach people how to do it properly.
Yes, and you have a setup for voicemail. Is that in Gold Calling, the Gold Calling book, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, så om du vill ha reda på precis hur du ska göra med voicemailen, då läser du Gold Calling som Bruce har skrivit. Den är briljant. I want to add something about cold calling. I don't like it because you don't have to call cold anymore because there is a new thing in the world called internet, and it's also called LinkedIn. If you are on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you can get a referral or some common ground with almost every people you ever want to speak with. Use that and get away from cold calling. But don't be long about that because Bruce says one thing, I say another thing, and we are both right. So here is an interesting question. If we are in an increasing sales period, I got this question from a girl. Right now we have the sales speed. Everything is getting really good. How can we keep it and increase sales even more?
Carry on doing what you are doing, but do it even better and do more of it.
It's focus that is the main thing, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If what you are doing is working, seek to improve it and do more of it, and you'll get more sales.
Yeah, and that's the opportunity to what every people do, because I have seen a lot of Swedish sales people, when they get a big business, then they slow down instead. How could that be?
Because they don't have big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yes. It always comes down to the goals. Yes. If you're doing something right, do a lot of it. Just increase the tempo. Then the sales tempo is a very important factor to increase your sales. So what's up next? Yes. Let's say you are in a sales organization, and why do we follow each other all the time? In selling, in not selling, things at the office like going for a coffee and go to the bathroom. If one starts, everybody follows. Why can't we focus individually? I think I know what you're going to say here, Bruce.
The answer is quite simply, you can focus individually. It is your choice. When I was first in sales, and probably for the first year, I looked at what the top people were doing, and they weren't around the coffee machine. They weren't in little groups chatting. They were on the phone or they were out selling. I looked at what the top people were doing, and I did what they did. You want to, you can either fly with the eagles or you can twitter with the sparrows. It's your choice.
Yes, and I want to add something about this. When the job gets an institution, I have thought a lot about that lately. When you're going to the job, is like going to the office, nothing extra is happening. It starts to being November, you are being tired, and all that stuff. You have to be inspired, and you have to have that goal. Because otherwise you can jobba på kommun istället. Work at the state office, at the customs. No. You work as a salesman or a saleswoman, and then you decide what's happening. Not the boss. You are deciding. So focus on your own goal. This is interesting. Bruce, you write a lot about mirroring. I remember this still because when I read the psycho-selling book the first time, that was one thing I changed. How can you mirror someone on the phone? You can't see them. Maybe we could start to explain what mirroring is. Maybe.
Well, mirroring means that the fundamental rule in life is that, aside from marriage, opposites don't attract. So if you are selling to somebody, people like to buy from people they like and they trust, and the people they like and trust subconsciously are people who are most like them. So mirroring in its most basic form means matching their body language so that they think that they are seeing themselves in a mirror, and matching their speech. If you're on the telephone, you can match their speech. So if they speak very, very quickly, then you speak very, very, very quickly too. And if they speak slowly, then you speak slowly too. And if they speak with a high-pitched voice, you might want to raise the pitch of your voice a little bit, or lower it if you need to. The point is, of course you can do it on the phone. You're speaking to them. You can hear their voice. You can hear their pitch. You can hear their rate of speech. And you just subtly mirror that. You copy that. And they get comfortable with you. And then you can speed up the tempo a little bit. And if you've really got a good relationship going, they will speed up their tempo a little bit. And then you know you've got them hooked.
Haha, great. So, what's the easiest way to get referrals?
Oh, I've got to tell you a little joke. There was this businessman, and he was having a seriously bad time, very bad time. He was short of money. He couldn't borrow money from the banks. None of his friends would lend him any money. And his business was teetering. And he got rid of a few staff, and he was very worried. And he decided to go to the church twice a week on the day before the lottery and pray to God for a win on the lottery. And he did this week after week after week, and things were getting worse and worse. And he went to the church one evening. He said, God, he said, this is now so bad. I desperately need a win on the lottery, please. And all of a sudden, the church went very quiet. And the light dimmed. And a voice spoke out and said, Roger, meet me halfway. Buy a bloody ticket. Okay, so coming back to your question, what's the easiest way to ask for referrals? Get referrals? Ask for them. Most people don't. Most people know that the easiest people to do business with, the most profitable people to do business with, and the people who are most likely to refer you on to other people are referrals, but most people forget to ask for them. And when they do ask for them, very rarely, they ask in a way, like closing the sale I mentioned earlier, they sound hesitant, they sound unsure that they are going to get them, and they transfer that thought pattern into the prospect's head and they don't get the referrals. You have to be positive. You have to know precisely what to say, how to say it in such a way that you will get those referrals. Most of the people I teach my referral techniques to get 80% at least of their business from referrals.
Yes. I take this in Swedish Bruce. Det viktigaste som Bruce säger här, det är samma som jag säger på min stentavla. Fråga alltid efter referenser. Ordet alltid är det viktigaste. Att få in det i ditt vardagsprat, i ditt vardagssälj. Får du en referens följer du upp på den med en gång och startar den nya säljprocessen. Det är så här att jag säljer uteslutande på referenser. Jag gör ingenting annat. Där skiljer Bruce och mig lite grann. Men det är så som jag har valt att lägga upp det. Och jag vet, det går att få tag på en referens till vilken person du än vill prata med. Du gör så att du frågar alltid efter referenser i slutet av samtalet. Då har du alltid någon att gå vidare med. Oavsett om kunden säger ja eller nej. Okay, we have to be rather short on this, but we could speak about it for 2 weeks or something. What's the easiest way to close the sale, Bruce?
Ask for it in a positive manner. Do you know, I can't believe how many times I've been out with people and they don't ask for the business. They wait for somebody to volunteer. We have to close sales gently, professionally. We have to nudge people into making a decision.
Yes, you're perfectly right. We have compared numbers, Bruce and me, and it's the same in Sweden as in England. Almost half of the salespeople doesn't ask at all for the business, and a lot of them are not asking why the customer says no. And you have to do this, because if you do that all the time, you get more business and you get very fast to that big hairy goal. Great. Now it's important question, and I know you're hot on that at the moment, Bruce. Why is thinking the most important thing in sales?
Thinking is the most important thing in sales, and thinking is the most important thing in life. And in fact, nothing ever happens until you have a thought. 95% of your thoughts are unconscious, 5% of your thoughts are conscious. And when you ask yourself a question, in other words, you think, you will get the answers. Or you will be told by your unconscious mind where to find those answers. Nothing ever happens until we think. If we control what we think about, then we control the answers we get and we control the results that we get. If we think non-positive, negative things, we will flood our brain with unconscious and conscious negative messages. If we think positive thoughts and ask ourselves positive questions, we will get positive answers and positive results. Thinking is everything.
Yes, and here's one thing you have to think about. Why should I, as a listener, go to Masters of Sales and Think and Grow Sales seminar in Stockholm, Bruce? Why should I be there?
I have been speaking to audiences of salespeople and sales directors and business owners for over 27 years now, Max. And whenever I speak, wherever I speak, those who put into action what I show them increase their sales and their positivity massively. And this occasion will be no different.
So it's not a question of being there or not being there. If you really want to grow your sales, you should be there.
Be there.
Yeah.
Be there. Come shake my hand and some of the magic will rub off.
Great. Jag tycker så här. Jag har jobbat som föreläsare i 10 år. Jag har jobbat som försäljningschef i 15 och sett och hört och gjort allt inom försäljning. När Bruce King och jag står på scen tillsammans, jag börjar med att köra min föreläsning, den nya. Det de andra inte gör, det är att fokusera på saker som bara stjärnsäljare gör och som andra människor inte gör. Vi har varit nära en del av de sakerna här, men det finns mycket, mycket mer. Och Bruce har precis skrivit en bok som heter Think and Grow Sales. Den kommer släppas i samband på svenska i samband med det här eventet också. Och är alltså så inne på att lära dig hur dina tankar, hur dina mål kan få din försäljning att öka. Vi kör den här föreläsningen en gång och du borde faktiskt vara där. Och när är det här då? Jo, det är den 19 april på eftermiddag mellan 13 och 17. Vi har lagt det så att även sådana som inte bor i Stockholm ska kunna resa in och sen så hinna hem på kvällen också. Och det är så här, bokar du plats nu så kan du göra det till early bird-pris och spara 500 kronor. Kostar 14,95 istället för 2000 kronor. Men det är också så, eftersom du är med på det här webbinariet idag, bokar du platsen idag så får du Bruce Kings bok Winning Sales Referrals som en extra bonus så att du ska kunna börja träna på det här innan. Och jag tycker inte det är någonting att fundera på. Jag vill se dig där, för jag vet att vi kan hjälpa dig med massor av goda råd. Nu har du fått det här webbinariet och svar på massa frågor och vi har några minuter kvar så det kommer fler frågor också. Men nu har du chansen att få ta inför vår- och sommarförsäljningen och få bästa starten. Så jag säger så här. Gå in på vår hemsida www.derpalm.se och boka platsen nu. Eller så klickar du på länken här så kommer du till rätt ställe. Så tackar jag så hemskt mycket för den här officiella delen av webbinariet.